Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Now let us see the phases of cardiac cycle. Okay, phases of cardiac cycle. Yes, yes. So what are the phases of cardiac cycle? The first one is atrial systole, which is of 0.1 seconds. What happens here? Atria pumps blood into ventricles. Yes, yeah. So atria will pump blood into ventricles. If we draw a diagram, guys, I'm poor at drawings, but just please bear with me. If let us first say this is the atria, this is the ventricle, and this is the aortic valve. Okay, this is the opening of aorta. Let this be in red color so that it will be easy for you guys to understand that it's an aortic valve. Yes, yeah. So atria is squeezing itself. It is squeezing itself, and this leads to opening of the valves, right? This leads to opening of the valves, and this leads to filling of ventricle. Yes, this is called as active filling, guys. This is called as active filling. So the ventricle is getting filled with the blood. Now what happens? So let us first say this is the atrium, this is the ventricle again. So here we had valve which was open, yes, and here we had valve which is closed, and this is aortic valve. So this valve has opened, blood is being filled, yes. So when the blood is filled here, all this get accumulated. So what does this blood do? This blood starts putting pressure on these valves. Yes, this blood, this whole blood which is present here, starts putting pressure on the valves. So this leads to closure of the valve. Yes, this leads to closure of the valve, and now the ventricle itself starts contracting. The ventricle is starting contraction, so this further puts pressure on the valve, and this leads to complete closure of the valve. The valve gets completely closed. So as the pressure is increasing, this pressure will also be exerted on the aortic valves. Yes, this pressure will also be exerted on the aortic valve, and aortic valve tries to open, but just before that, just before, the pressure in the ventricle is not enough. At the beginning of contraction, at the beginning of contraction, the pressure in the ventricle, the pressure is not enough to open aortic valve, so guys, here ventricle is trying to contract, trying to open this valve, but unfortunately atrial pressure is more than ventricular pressure, so the valve is not opening. So here this valve, here this valve is closed, this valve is closed, so both valves are closed, and ventricles are being contracted in a closed space. Yes guys, because see, the atrioventricular valves are closed, aortic valve is also closed, and the ventricle is contracting itself to open this aortic valve, but the pressure is not sufficient, that's it. So because of this, it is not able to open the valve. As ventricle is being contracted in a closed space, this is known as, very very important guys, isovolumetric contraction. The same thing happens on the right side, guys. I am just showing the things on left side. Okay, this is left sided heart. Okay guys, did you understand this? Very very important guys. Once again, I am just gonna recap this. So atria is actively contracting, pushing blood, opening this atrioventricular valve or mitral valve and filling blood into ventricles. So at certain point, after the emptying, complete emptying, what happens? This atria is completely dumped its blood into ventricles. Now ventricle is starting contraction. So this leads to closure of mitral valve. Yes, and tends to open aortic valve. Yes guys, tends to open aortic valve. So at this time both valves are in closure, so because of this, as ventricles are being contracted in a closed space, this is known as isovolumetric contraction. Very very important guys. So just practice till here. We'll meet in the next video and we'll move further. Thank you guys.